welcome to Chai and Chill. Today I have Devdatta Di with me, who is a fellow bibliophile, Limca Book of Record holder for most reviews for many years. I did not look up কতগুলো বছর, but many years, and a very dear friend
3
of
years.
mine. 3 years. Welcome to Chai and Chill, Dividi. And before we jump into anything, I have this. This cup has a story. This was the very first cup I bought when I moved to Bombay. This is the first thing I have, material possession in Bombay.
I'm surprised that you're using a cup. I'm surprised that you're not using a paper cup. Single life like yours, I would have been using paper cups, disposable cups, not to do any chores.
I did it for 2 interviews, but I thought it's getting old.
Okay, so this is my mug rather. It's quite old, so the writing is not so visible anymore, but it says, I drink and I know things. And Tyrion would be very disappointed that I only drink tea in this and not wine. And this mug was actually selected because of its size. This is actually a beer mug.
See, chai lovers like us, I will 100% I would drink chai out of it. People have been asking me, what do you miss most about this lockdown? I miss my officer mama, who used to give me so much of chai every day.
And do you like varieties?
No, he did not have variety. He had the very that whole Bombay cutting chai.
Okay. Now, but do you like variety of teas or just the simple?
Just the simple one. I like the flavored ones, the ginger chai, the elaichi chai, the ones where you just put hot water and make it. But again, single life, how to make things quicker.
Yeah.
So Devidi has a blog. How I met her was we were all in a blogging competition, and that is where I met her. I met Sudeshna. I met a lot of people who are now in my life, Deepti, all of them via that competition. After that entire thing, I think they stopped. Writer Cafe, if I'm not wrong, Writer Cafe has stopped. But I also discovered other professions that you can have with a blog. Devdatta Di helps authors amplify their voices. Her blog is mostly on book reviews and promoting other authors. So I want to know what prompted you to start this service.
Are you asking me about my book blog or are you asking about my book promotions?
I'm asking about both. I want to know. See, I know you're a voracious reader.
So I started book blogging just after I got married because I was already bored by the end of 2 months. I was already bored with my marriage and I wanted something new. So I started my book blog where I read and review books and I do interviews and guest posts and giveaways, a simple book related blog. And so that I started in February 2012. And I was working, at that point I was working full time. And I was working with a boss who actually used to call me up at 12:30 at night. So one day I said, and I was, it took me 1 week to read a book at one point. So I decided it was enough. I remember I called up Nishant at his office at a very odd hour. And I told him, listen, I'm quitting my job. He said, okay, fine, what will you do? I will see. So I quit my job at a moment's notice without any plan or anything. But yes, since I was already blogging for over a year and a half, I had some networking network with the people who could suggest me stuff and help me out. So that's when I started book review tools. Book promotion started, for me it started with booklets and book tools, the typical digital services. And now I have actually expanded a lot. So I work as an author assistant as well. So end of the day, I'm working with books from morning to night.
How do you manage is my question, because every day I get a mail from either author assistant or book review saying that we have this book. Do you want to do something? Do you want to host it on your blog? And I go,
And which you hardly ever do, yeah.
I'll do all. Fine. I don't do as many, but I have signed up for a lot of things today. I did because I finally have time. So for
Okay.
me, the whole thing of living absolutely on your own just started from last October. I used to have flatmates before this. From October, I've been staying
Yeah.
absolutely alone and
Okay.
figuring out life hacks.
So I don't know. You asked me how I do it. I have no idea. I always ask for 48 hours a day, but unfortunately, I have not cracked that code yet. When I do, I'll let you know. Till then, I have to struggle. I sleep like 2 to 3 hours a day at the most because I work. I manage my household. I also study, and I still find time to read. So I have to give up something, right? So I usually give up sleep.
Yes. You are also an inspiration for me to start looking at courses. Since I keep seeing that you are doing so much and you're studying, I actually started looking into there's this creative writing course that IGNOU offers that I wanted to do
Yeah,
for a very long time, and it's really good. I might finally do it this year because I have time.
I'll follow up with you on that and make sure that you do.
Oh my god, this is recording, ABD. Uh, which brings me to the next question, which is if there was somebody there are a lot of people who approach us and ask us, like I am an author, so a lot of people approach us and ask us that we would like to, review your book. Most of the time, I don't feel comfortable giving my books to people I don't trust. And the things that I find in my other folder is crazy. So, what would your advice be for these people who are trying to get into the business and are probably not doing it the right way?
Uh, See, I don't blame them because there's a learning curve for everybody. I am still learning what other what is wrong for me may not be wrong for somebody else, right? I might feel comfortable WhatsApping you and saying ki, hey, review this book, or I have to email to somebody else and I have to ping somebody on Facebook. So there's a learning curve for everybody. But yes, actually, even I have received a lot of other message folders saying that I'm a reviewer. I'll review your book. And I'm like, please go and check my profile. I'm not an author. I don't have a book that I need reviews for. But yeah, that's the thing. I'll just say you when you're approaching somebody, check out their profile first. Check out the details of their profile first, and then approach accordingly. If there is an email available, it's always better to email rather than randomly popping in somebody's inbox. And if you're popping in my inbox and you're not friends with me, I will probably not check your message until 6 months has passed. I don't check my others folder, whether it's on Instagram or whether it's on Facebook. So take a look at the profile, what kind of person you are approaching. You'll understand from the profile itself. If it's an extrovert person, they won't mind you popping in their inbox. But if it's somebody like me, I'm like, don't. But once you take a look at my profile, you'll know what to do. And that's the basic mistake people do actually. Uh, Hi, where are you from? Or hi, what that was? Oh yeah, I got one request in my inbox. I don't know. Some author actually. This is the other way around. Some author actually. Uh, Hi, my name is so and so. I've written a book. This is the link. Please buy and review.
But that is not how it works. That has
Thankfully,
happened
it
to me
was
as
in
well.
my other folder, so I just deleted. I didn't bother replying to that also.
No, I remember when I first met you, I did not know this was a very cool way of getting your book to the right readers, I would say. because I did not know that you leverage social media or even the blogosphere for this. But once I had met you right after I think I published my first book. So yeah. So after that, we have always worked together to figure out how to promote the other books as well. But at the same time, I used to see a lot of other people who were in the same field, say who would be virtual book marketers for the lack of a better word. But now I don't see them anymore. Most of them made very public statements about leaving the business. Why do you think so many people left the business? And do you even look at it as a business?
First of all, for me, it's not a business. I won't deny that I earn from it, but I don't approach it as a business at all. In fact, I get a lot of slack for it from my close friends and family that I don't have any business sense and stuff like that. But end of the day, it's my passion. Books are my passion. I started this because I love books. So yes, I don't see it as a business, but I do understand why some people have left. And it's not just the promoters who have left the business. It's the biggest loss is the number of genuine reviewers that we have lost in recent years.
Mm.
That is the biggest loss. Even more than the promoters, what I feel is the losses of genuine reviewers, and that is because a lot of unethical practices are happening these days. A lot of them. So, as a book reviewer myself, even I feel sometimes what's the use of me actually reading a book and reviewing it on my own time, and most of the times on my own dime too. I do it as a passion. My reviewing stuff is as a passion. You know, my book blog, it doesn't earn me a single penny.
I know.
Why should I do it? Sometimes even I feel like that. But end of the day, I started it because I wanted to rant. So I'll keep ranting. Whether somebody wants to listen or not is another thing. And on the other hand, as a promoter, I am facing a lot of trouble getting genuine reviewers. So end of the day, when I'm promoting a book, if I'm not able to get you at least 5 reviews, it doesn't make sense.
But yeah, so one of the personal reasons I stopped reviewing in exchange for review copies is because a lot of people don't take feedback really well. I don't I don't know whether it was through you that I got that book, but it was not a very great book. And I tried to be as gentle as I could, and I faced a lot of backlash for it because the author went crazy. Because I think in that person's head, it was if I'm.
No, then I can guarantee you did not get it from me, because that's one of the rules I tell my authors, the authors that I work with, is that I don't guarantee. I work with genuine reviewers who will say what they feel like. If you
So
cannot take that, please find somebody else who will get you 5-star
it was not.
reviews.
There were, like I said, there were a lot of other portals as well, and I did not mind because to me it was thick. I like reading anyway. I had a lot of free time when I was in Calcutta. I used to read and I used to review on the side. But I remember that the author went ballistic, saying that if I pay for this service, then why is the review not saying good things about my book? And we had a hard time convincing the person that you did not pay for the review. You were probably paying for the promotion and the booklets and everything else that happened. Book reviewers cannot give you positive reviews in exchange for money. That is unethical. That was my reason for quitting. I could not deal with it. So, but coming back to you, I know you had set very, very clear boundaries. So, do you remember your first client and the boundaries that you set with them? Like, this is what you expect and this is it.
Okay, my first paid client, I'll say, because when I started, I did quite a few events for free, and I told the authors that, see, I'm just starting off. There's bound to be some mistakes. So this is why I'm not charging, but I'll do what I can do best. But I got very good feedback from the very first 3 or 4. I don't remember. I think 3 or 5, either 3 or 5 I did for free. So my first paid client was an author named Elizabeth McKenna. Her book was Venice in the Moonlight. And I didn't even, I told her that you can pay whatever you feel it was worth at the end of the event. And when she paid me, and I won't disclose the number, and I was like, because if I was to charge, I would charge maybe half of that. And she paid that much, and I was like, thank you so much. And I was like jumping with joy because it was such an unexpected amount.
So that was, I'm sure that experience was different because everybody remembers the first time. Like I remember my debut novel. It feels like a ghost that doesn't want to leave me. But now I know how to turn the tables on it. But are the experiences that you have very different from the one that you had initially when you first started off?
See, I have had very mixed experiences. I've seen that working with international authors is much easier. Number one, they are very focused about what they want from whatever event they're undertaking. So when they're focused on that, it's easier for me to deliver. Number two is that they pay better and they don't ask for discounts.
Do you face that a lot? People ask for discount?
Desi authors.
Okay, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's much easier working with international authors because they are very focused. The best part about working with them is they know what they want. Even a debut author will have an idea when they are coming to me for an event. They will have an idea. And those who don't, they ask upfront, okay, if I do this, what will happen? If I do that, what will happen? And if I say something and I deliver on that, that's good enough. So I love working with international authors most of all. There have been situations where things were outlined, but end of the day, the client said, okay, but I also wanted that. So I was like, you should have told me that beforehand, not at the end of the event saying that, okay, I cannot pay you that much as promised because I also expected that. I said, I cannot deliver on things that's just in your mind. Unless and until you tell it to me, I cannot mind read, and that too through a computer screen. So that's there. Mostly it's been a good experience working with authors. It's very good because when I am promoting a book, I get to know a lot of details about the book that I wouldn't know as a reader. So reader or reviewer, I wouldn't know all the backstage stories.
You do get to know a lot. Yeah. I have somehow landed myself in the very twilight zone of being both an author and a reviewer. So I get a lot of those mails that we were talking about initially and the DMs on Instagram, which brings me to another question, which is you are still in the book world and you still find a lot of success with your blog. Like some of us are, well, we are not just that lucky, or we don't do SEO, or we don't promote it as much as we should. But right now there's this whole new crop of bookstagrammers who only review books on Instagram, and it's usually a very, very pretty picture. Half the time people don't read the review that is there in the 300 word limit ka caption. People just hit like and move on. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, is it a good thing that the books move to Bookstagram?
Okay, I'll tell you one thing. I have never done SEO on my blog. I find it very irritating. I remember attending this blogger meet where people were talking about SEO and this and that. And this was way back in 2015, 16, I don't remember exactly. They were talking about SEO, do this, do that, and there was a specialist out there who was giving a session and all. So I was like, okay. And that was my introduction to SEO actually. So I was like, okay, good idea. I'll look it up more. Okay, let's see what we can do if it helps. Then I ended up checking his website and his Google page rank. We don't have that anymore, but at that point of time, Google page rank was a big
Hmm.
indicator of your blog success. So the guy who was actually delivering a session on SEO, his page rank was 5. My page rank was also 5. So I said, what the H? And I've never, after that I tried learning and I have done a course and everything, but end of the day I find writing a post based and basing it on SEO kind of wipes out my voice from the post at all, on the whole. You have to mention this word so many times. You have to link this word to this page and all those nonsense. So rather, ठीक है यार. If you don't want to read, if you don't find my blog, don't come to it. Fine. Just because I'm not mentioning one word 5 times in my post and making it longer by that, it's okay. So that's there. I never do SEO. End of the day, content is key. People will tell you you need a picture that is Pinterest worthy. You need a picture that is Instagram worthy. Everything should be in your post. Otherwise, nobody is following your post. I don't do any of those things. End of the day, content is king. And yes, to make my life easier, I have automated some of the processes where once I put a post up on my blog, it gets cross posted on social media. That's it. As for bookstagrammers, I frankly say I hardly ever read any of those reviews. But at the same time, I do appreciate bookstagrammers because I follow a lot of them on my Instagram. While scrolling through, if you see an interesting book cover or a title, so then I go on and read whatever they have to say about it. And that way I've discovered a lot of new books because nowadays I stay off social media mostly, and I don't subscribe to any channels that will tell me what the new releases are unless it's on Goodreads. I miss out on a lot of new releases these days because of it. So yeah, Instagram and Bookstagrammers are my source of new releases and what's uh, cool to read these days.
Nice. But I personally, I still like blogging more. Like I remember there was a time when
Yes,
blogging died, to so to say, it died and it came back into 2010s. That is when I started blogging again very seriously. Like, do you think they are headed that way where people there will like the blogger generation will die out with us?
I don't think so. There will be newer platforms maybe, but your websites will always be there. End of the day, people when they have to search for something, they come to Google. They don't go to Instagram to search for things. And when you search on Google, Instagram pages don't come in top 10. Hardly ever comes in top 10 things. So yes, requirement for blogs and websites will always be there.
That is also
And
something
then
I
again, for someone like you and me, 300 words is not enough. 300 words that again should include hashtags as well. So maybe the review will be at the most 200 words. For you and me, 200 words is not enough to tell people what we feel about a particular book. Whether it's good or bad, we need to rank.
also I am not very sure that what I want to say is heard on Instagram, because there was a time I actually did this experiment. I put up my own picture and I wrote this one caption without any hashtag saying fake it till you make it. And I think in 15 minutes I garnered some 100 or 92 likes. And then there was some once when I wrote about this whole about black cats and I wanted to raise awareness for it. There was hardly 50 likes, and that too over the course of 2 days. So that is when I realized that people don't read. They just look at a pretty picture and they hit like. Like at least I know blog.
I don't even look at pretty pictures. I just scroll and like everything on my feed, hoping that somebody will return the likes. Very frankly, because these days, everything is like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. Otherwise, nobody is going to pay attention to you unless they're getting something from you.
Oh yeah, that is another thing that I wanted to talk about, which I did not tell you beforehand, is I went back and I saw when I first started blogging, there were 7 to 10 genuine people who would read my blogs and they would comment. And I would also go on their blog and I would read it and I would comment. Right now, I hardly find people commenting. The last time people commented on my blog was when I wrote a story, and I think I bullied people to say that whatever you thought of the story, don't message me and tell me, write it on that
Yeah,
blog.
I remember that. Because I was one of those people who had to go and comment because my WhatsApp comment was not enough.
So why is
So
that?
yeah, the commenting has become totally like, I'll scratch your back and you scratch my back. So end of the day, if you go and see that somebody has 10 comments or 50 comments on their blog, it's not because people were so in love with the post. It's because the author of the blog has gone and commented on 150 blogs to get those 50 comments back. So yeah.
Okay,
So,
one thing.
on the topic of this, we were just discussing. I was talking to somebody. This was just after the lockdown. So somebody was telling me that the comments and the likes and the traffic to my blog has gone down. I don't know what happened. I said, I don't know. Since the lockdown, actually my page reach has gone up by 150% since the lockdown. People have more Descartes time. When power cuts and internets are gone at work, they're doing all this nonsense. So yeah, and she was like, okay, then I have to go and comment, and I told that person my uh, page reach for the last 1 month, and I believe in quality, not quantity. I'll go and comment on 100 blogs today. I don't know. I actually didn't know what to say because, man, if I'm getting 100 page reads, okay, those 100 page reads are genuine page reads.
Yeah.
Not because I went and commented on somebody's blog, did they feel obligated to come back and read my blog post. So I don't know which is quality actually. What is quality?
Yeah, but speaking of blogs, another thing that I noticed about us is, despite so many bloggers saying that WordPress is the best place to have your blog, blah blah blah, you and I are the only people who have chosen to stay on Blogger. Obviously we have our domains, but it's still hosted on Blogger, and I somehow prefer Blogger.
No, see, if somebody is choosing WordPress because they find it easier to navigate and manage, very good. Go and choose WordPress. But majority of the people, again, CEO, majority of the people choose WordPress because WordPress has a plugin, your CEO plugin,
SEO.
which, yeah, if you do, then you'll get lots of traffic. But end of the day, and that plugin is not free, by the way. You don't
No,
get that on free WordPress. You
no,
don't get that on free WordPress.
so there is a hack. There is this Yoast SEO that you can have as a plugin. We used to have that for Buzz magazine, and after a point of time, I realized that my brains are better than that plugin.
Yeah, yeah.
Because despite
So
doing
what a lot of, yeah.
sorry, so I was just saying that despite doing everything by the book for Buzz and doing whatever I wanted to and following my, say, instincts for my personal blog has always ranked higher than the doing everything by the book for Buzz.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, because end of the day, what people do not realize is that Blogspot is a Google product. And we all know how Google works.
Yep. Very true.
So WordPress with the Yoast plugin doesn't have that edge over Blogger with the same content. Doesn't have.
I have actually been helping a bunch of kids. To me, they are kids. Yeah, they are kids because they are just either about to enter college or they just have a lot of free time because their boards just got over. So they were learning how to start a blog from me, and they were asking all these questions about WordPress and Blogger. And now I can see them. They
At
are
the end of the day, it's a lot of things. I will admit that the Blogger and the WordPress, they are very different interfaces. So if you're comfortable on WordPress, use WordPress. If you're comfortable on Blogger, use Blogger. But don't use WordPress saying that it's better for SEO. It's not.
no, it's not. I have had blogs on both, so I don't think so.
Yeah, I started on WordPress twice, and both times I moved back to Blogger.
Okay, one thing I want to know, and this is going to be on the record so that later on I can play this back for myself. How do you get time to read so many books? Since I have known you, since 2012, I believe,
Okay.
you are always reading.
Okay, I will go on a huge rant, and I'm going to make a lot of people very irritated, and
Go for it.
without using any F words because I don't use anything other than fudge. But if you don't find time to read, then basically you love other things more than reading. You don't love reading as much as you're claiming to. You have time to scroll through Facebook and feel FOMOing. Is it feel FOMOing or is it FOMOing? Whichever.
It is FOMO.
So you can FOMO, scroll and feel FOMO and all that whole day long, but you don't know when to read. I thought when the lockdown started, I was really pissed that I wouldn't get as much time to read and my reading rate will fall, because obviously I have a cook and a maid who helps me, so a lot of extra work was coming up on me. But because I love reading and it's the first and foremost thing in my life, I find ways. I started listening to audiobooks while cooking because I can't read while cooking. I am so clumsy. I tried that also, reading on my phone while cooking, but I burnt myself quite a few times, dropped my phone in the curry quite a few times. Then I had to quit that. So now I listen to audiobooks while cooking, while doing jharu pocha. I listen to audiobooks. I realize that I cannot read, I cannot concentrate for thrillers. I'll miss small details. But fun books like I actually enjoyed the Fletcher book much more on audiobook. I loved the audiobook and I went back and I thought that, okay, I'll read it because I loved it so much. I need to read it. But then I realized I love the audiobook more. So I read very light stories, contemporary, romantic, comedy things on audiobooks when I'm working, doing all these chores. I do not go to sleep no matter what time of what time it is, unless and until I've read 100 pages that day. I read when I wake up and have my first cup of tea in the morning. I read. Okay, and this is little bit gross, but I have an extra phone, so I read in the loo.
That's fine. People do read in
I
the.
read, they take their phone inside. Nowadays, everybody takes their phone into the loo and they scroll through social media. Yeah, instead of doing social media, I read.
But I don't know why people find it gross. Like for us, when I was growing up, taking your book to the wall, to the loo to read was very normal, and we used to do it because we
So
were
I
growing
never
up.
took my book. I never took my book. What if I dropped it? No,
You have to
I
be
never
careful.
took my
Plus, we
book.
had our bathroom was made in a way that you had a place to keep your book. Imagine. So there was a way to
Yeah,
keep
I
your.
never took my physical book, but since I started using a phone before Android, I used to use this Bada, Samsung Bada, which had APK files for books. I have been reading since then, reading in the loo since then. So every time, whenever you have time, you take a break from your work, right? When I used to work full time, I used to carry a book to my office. And during the lunchtime, I used to ignore everybody and sit and read and get my food.
I interviewed, like I told you, I interviewed Pratibha before we started this, that I had interviewed Pratibha a few days back. And we was talking about young adult fiction and everything, and your podcast came up. The one that
Yeah.
how we only talk books. So tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about how it started, because we never got to go into that because we kind of spent all our time talking about YA fiction.
Talking about YA. Yeah. I'm glad you didn't choose that topic for me. So we only talk books is a brainchild of Pratibha. Prat, me and Vinay, we talk about books on WhatsApp all the time. So one fine day, Prat messaged me on WhatsApp saying, "Hey, I think I'm planning to do a podcast. It would be really great if you can join me on this. Would you be interested?" I said, "Okay, fine. One more way to, you know, rant about books. Why not?" And this was at a time when I was doing 3 courses, working full time, and just shifting also. So I was like, one more thing about it's about books. And my mom was like, "Do you have time?" And I'm like, "It's about books, I'll make time." And then Pratibha had also approached Vinay separately. He also agreed. Then we had a WhatsApp group. We only talked books where we chatted. But when it comes to the podcast, it's still a learning curve for us because none of us have professional uh, equipment with us. So most of the times there is some technical issue. Plus, Pratt being in Canada, we have to actually manage our time accordingly. So
Yeah.
it's still a learning curve. We have about 8 episodes out right now, and it's still a learning curve. I won't say we are good at it yet, but yes, we are honest about what we are talking on up there. So even if the sound quality is not as good yet, and our voice are not as modulated as it should be, but whatever you hear on the podcast comes straight from our heart.
I already linked it for Pratt's Chai and Chill. I'll link it again. But I enjoy listening to the podcast. Plus, I get it. Pratt makes sure to send me the link as soon as the thing is up. So another thing that I love about you, and thing that you inspired me to have actually pocketbook on my phone as well, where anything can become a reading equipment if you are brave enough, I guess. With the Kindle and with paperbacks and hardcover, which is the medium that you enjoy reading on the most? And do you still have a favorite way of consuming these stories?
It's still paperback. End of the day, I would say physical books, but if I want to be very particular, I love paperbacks because nothing smells as good. So paperbacks all the way. If I have a choice, any physical book first, then ebooks, and I'm still warming up to audiobooks. But anyway, whichever way you want to give it to me, I'm okay with it. Even if it's a Word document, I don't mind.
Okay. Now that we are in the middle of a global pandemic, the whole thing is the publishing industry has come to a standstill. But the ebook industry is seen a spike. Do you think we are going to get better stories, or do you think that the quality is going to go down? And I know because I know you tortured Pratt with a self-published book.
Okay, so that particular book, I'll tell you about it offline. The one you mentioned. But the thing is that yes, physical book sales uh, has gone down, and it's not just during the pandemic. It had started going down a few months earlier. But yes, all of a sudden, a lot of people are realizing that self-publishing is the way to go, which I don't mind. But please do get a good editor.
Yeah. Samarpita Di, shout out. I keep doing this
Yeah,
too.
Samarpita Sharma. at samarpita.in, and you can also look up Divya Balaji at Precise Scanning on Facebook.
I keep doing that to people. I keep telling them that go to an editor. Please go see an editor. So now that you know that you have to, not know, when these books, say not very well edited books, or maybe you don't agree with the story, when they come to you and they tell you that, can you please help me promote my book? Are you ever faced with a moral dilemma, or do you just say that, sorry, I will not do this?
No, because this is one of the places where people tell me I don't have any business sense. I know I have to earn, otherwise even Bill Gates cannot, manage my book bills. So I have to earn. So I do compromise in some places. I promote books that I probably won't if I had the choice. But if I've read a book, which is why most of the times the books that I promote, I do not read them. Because once I read them, I'll have very strong opinions, and then I will not be able to promote it to my best abilities. So first of all, yes, most of the times I do not read the books that I have promoted. At the same time, a lot of people, and if they are watching, a lot of people like yours, for example, I promote your books for free. I promote other authors, I won't name, people will think I'm dropping names. I promote or help behind the scenes with certain books for free because I love those books. I want to see them do well. So for those, some books, because I am compromising, I won't deny that I'm compromising because this is my work. End of the day, if I have to pick and choose, Jeffrey Archer won't come to me for promoting his book. Brandon Sanderson is not going to come to me to promote his book, or Lee Child is not going to come to me and ask me to promote his books. So yeah, I have to compromise, but at the same time, I make sure there is a balance in the books that I'm promoting by promoting the books that I love for free.
Yes, I remember the first time I messaged you and asked you about your promotion packages. What a jhad instead.
No, that's it. There's another author whose books I keep promoting officially, unofficially, both. And that person has asked me, I think, n number of times that tell me your charges. I want to pay you because you're number one reason for whatever. But I keep telling that person that no, I cannot, because this is like my, what do you call? This is how I make a balance in my life. I have to promote the works that I believe in. If I can do a little bit for the books that I really believe in, why not?
I don't know whether we should keep that in the interview though. I don't know who's going to look at this interview and say, what do you mean?
They'll know because I let them know. They won't be surprised because I'm very outspoken. Sometimes I just cannot stop myself. So most of these people that I mentioned that I compromised and I have promoted me.
So like I said, I had woken up, I think, and there was this huge debate going on whether one should charge for book reviews or not. I remember that whole thing where the entire book blogger circle, I think, was divided right down the middle on two sides. And I remembered that.
Okay, so this is another thing that I'm going to rant on. Charging for book reviews is not wrong. If you want to charge for your services, charge. But there are certain ethical issues concerned, and you have to follow some procedure, right? So when you are charging for a review, you are supposed to disclose that.
I think you have to write it.
You will see anywhere in the world those influencers, the people who are actually doing well in their field, the influencers, whoever is promoting something for service or money or a free phone or whatever, they always mention that this is sponsored. Instagram, if you go to Instagram, there will be a hashtag ad at the very beginning or within the post, not hidden among the other hashtags. The rule is that if you are charging something, your audience should know that.
Absolutely.
Okay. My problem with charging for book reviews is that, especially this new generation, okay, this new generation, they will charge from 50 rupees to 3,000, 5,000 for a review. I have no problem. You take 10 rupees, you take 3,000 rupees, you take 10,000 rupees. I have no problem. But follow the rules. Number one, the post itself should, in the post itself, it should be mentioned that this is a sponsored post. Yes, you are giving fair review, but you are charging for it. So it is a sponsored post. Don't deny that. Disclose that it's a sponsored post. Number two is don't post that review on Amazon.
Yep.
Amazon's rules clearly state that you cannot post a review that you have charged for. A paid review, they will not. You can claim 100 times that it's an honest review. But Amazon, it goes against Amazon rules. I actually had a huge fight about this with somebody, and this was offline, totally offline. I have stopped engaging online. This is totally offline. I had a huge fight saying that that person is like, I said, but then don't post on Amazon. No, I would disclose on Amazon that I'm charging for this review.
That is unethical.
And I'm like, do you realize how unethical that is? And since I have made a huge hullabaloo, some people in my list, because I keep telling about this every time I can, anywhere I get a stage, I keep telling, charge for reviews. Make sure that they are honest. Make sure that you are following the procedures. You are disclosing, because the moment you're not disclosing the fact that it's a sponsored post, you are actually cheating your audience. They have a right to know.
They do.
They have a right to know whether you have charged money for it or not. How do I know? If I see a review on a website and I don't know it's sponsored, I don't know this person from Adam, I will assume that this is an honest review.
Yes.
But in the background, this person may have charged and may have compromised his review, his or her review. So I should have that right to choose what I'm consuming. I should know what I'm reading. Then make a choice for myself. If I'm going to, if today you start charging for reviews, or if Pratibha starts charging for reviews, I will still follow your reviews because I know you will keep it honest. But I should have the right to know. You want to charge for reviews, very well, go ahead and read. But writing one line of disclaimer in some obscure part of your website and saying that some of my posts are sponsored posts, that's very irresponsible, very unethical. And the moment you post those reviews on Amazon, you're crossing all boundaries. Then don't come and get on the high horse after doing all those unethical things.
That is another thing I don't understand, that why do you not want to disclose the fact that you have charged for your review, whereas you know.
Because you don't trust your audience.
Yeah, because at the same time, suppose
we are the villains, because if we know that you are charging for a review, we won't trust your reviews.
No, so but the thing is, there are influencers and bloggers who do other stuff, right, for other things. When they are sent stuff by a company and they are asked that we would like an honest review in exchange for our product, sometimes they are also paid to write those posts. You have to, I think, but they always say that this is a sponsored post. So why not for
I
a book?
will say this is only in the book review industry where people are getting on high horses, and this is mostly prevalent in Indian book promotion circles. And the other part on, by the way, I'll give a self promotion here. Any reviews that you see on my book tours are not paid reviews, they're honest reviews out there.
I
So
know, like your point.
I do not engage people who do sponsored posts and do not disclose them. India mein koi hai, there's nobody who actually follows all the rules. And end of the day, when I'm promoting a book, I need those reviews on Amazon. Why would I get somebody who does paid reviews for it? But what moral dilemma I face is that people will say, when you're approaching, please say the rate.
What?
And yeah, tell us how much you're paying, then only you give the book details. Aisa bhi hai. People are there who don't want to know about the book, they only want to know the charge. Then, and I did this with a couple of people, I just said, okay, I'll pay you 50 rupees per review. Huh? Some agreed, some got under high horse and said, what nonsense is this? 50 rupees. There are people who are doing for 50 rupees. If you are getting into this game, you have to understand there are hundreds of college students who are taking 50 rupees plus the book and writing reviews with emojis in it. Full sentences with emojis.
What?
So why should I pay somebody 3,000 rupees for a review?
So yeah. So the
That's
thing
also
is,
another issue.
we were talking about, the other folder and the influencers and this whole moral dilemma of why should I pay you to review like you said that why will I charge you to, review a book? My question from the other side is, if my book is that good and I'm giving you a free copy, why do I have to pay you? Okay, fine. I understand if it comes with other things as well, that you promise to get more people to review it. It comes with a service like the book blast and the book blitz. I understand paying for that. I don't understand when people who have, I don't want to be a bitch, but who have 250 followers message me saying that I do paid reviews for books on Instagram, and I'm like, how did you find me?
So yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, I also understand charging for reviews, but the charge should depend on your audience. How do YouTubers get paid? How many people are watching? Right?
Right.
How do Instagrammers get paid? Through their stats. It's all about stats. These people will come and say, I'll charge 1,000 rupees either, and I once asked somebody who actually knows a lot about reviews, this paid reviews game. So I asked, this is my blog stats. I showed my Google Analytics dashboard. This is my blog stats. What should I charge? That guy said you should not go below 3,500 per review. So if I charge 3,500 per review and I can review, if I'm doing only this, I can review 200 books easily. I don't need to work.
You don't need to work at all.
And that was at the least. So if I show my stats, I can easily ask for more because these fudges are not. I have no words for these people. And they will inevitably get on the high horse and say, I'm spending time reading your book. That is worth something. Most of these people don't even read the book. If you see their reviews, it's just copy pasted from one line from this review, one line from that review.
You can actually run it against, I think, servers to figure that out, I'm sure. Like plagiarism checker and all that. But the other thing that, again, coming back to the whole influencer problem, few days ago, there was somebody who shared a picture of themselves reading the Diary of Anne Frank with a very cute smile.
Yeah, I saw that.
And the entire book world was again divided into two parts, where people like us who have actually read the book were appalled. Like, what are you smiling about? What is so amusing about that book? And other people were like, what is wrong? It's you're using the book as a prop. I'm sorry, you don't use a book as a prop. And if you do, then don't make the book a highlight in the.
No, if you want to use a prop, right, you won't take a jharu and pretend that it's say pillow,
True.
right?
Yes.
If you want a prop that's supposed to serve the purpose of being a pillow, you will use a pillow. So if you're using a book for a prop and you want to smile with it, pick up a light book that is relevant, the one that will make you smile. What's wrong with using a book as a prop is there's nothing wrong with using a book as a
I
prop,
know
but use it properly.
a book. Yes. Like, I would understand if it was a lighthearted, like you
And
said, it was a
plus,
lighthearted comedy. But
it's Diary of a Young Girl is a book that has actually changed life of generations of people since then. I don't think anybody laughed
no,
or
I did not.
smiled when they were reading. They cried. Some people like me who cried shamelessly.
Much.
And the first time I read, I was so distraught for a month after that. It was not just a reading period. It was the first time I read it. A month after that, I could not read any other book. It felt like I'm wasting my time.
I know.
So what am I doing with my life kind of book that is? It makes you question what kind of life you're living, right?
Especially
Uh,
because her
uh,
last entry is so hopeful, and then the diary stops, and then you find out what happened
you real,
6 days after
yeah,
that.
you
And
realize.
I remember I was so, like you said, I was so upset because I got so
Uh,
invested
ba-
in her life.
yes, barely. We cannot imagine that kind of life. Even now, like, a lot of people are saying this, giving examples that your grandparents lived through World War. They fought. They had to hide in bunkers at night, and you can't stay at home, which is very true.
It is
We
true.
are staying at home watching Netflix, ordering from Big Basket and Amazon. Even then, people are having trouble staying at home. Imagine a 12-year-old girl stuck in a what 8 by 4 or 8 by 6. I don't remember the size of the room, but a very small room with so many people stuck there for days and days and days where there is no entertainment. You are scared for your life for most part of the day that you're awake, and your only entertainment is people regaling the same stories over and over again. Like, if these people who are using this book as a prop were there, they would have. I don't know what would have happened. They wouldn't have survived a week.
They already don't, right? Because here I hear about violations every single day. Every day. Which
So I
brings.
feel it was like really sad. But end of the day, you know what? I have developed a very thick skin by now, being in this industry. A lot of things. If this had been even like 2 years back, I would have been on Facebook and ranting about this. But how much can I rant? Every day I have to rant 4 5 times because of all the stupidity around. I remember one uh, scandal or thing. Somebody reviewed a book saying that there was a lot of potential in the book, but the book didn't fail to meet that potential because of the language of the author, who made very simple grammatical mistakes in the book. Okay, so now this author took a screenshot of that review and posted in his profile and got his gang to comment on that and attack that reviewer, saying that if I have to learn grammar, I'll pick up a grammar book. I read a book only for the story.
What?
Yes. So that person who had reviewed that book and said that, okay, this was all paraphrased except for the part that if I have to learn grammar, I'll read a grammar book, not a storybook. That is word for word. It's printed on my mind. I don't know when I'll be able to forget that. But rest of it was paraphrased, and that reviewer was a person who genuinely loved to read and used to review because of sharing that passion, because that person wanted to share that passion. But the way the people attacked that person stopped reviewing.
But I don't understand. As a writer, isn't your first job to ensure that you're using correct grammar? You don't know who's reading your book. I get so scared because my reading, uh, they are kids. Most of my readers, except you guys, the demographic that I have, they are 16 to 18-year-olds. I don't want them learning wrong grammar from my books.
No, why are you writing a book when you don't know basic grammar? My first question is that. Okay, you have a great story to tell, but you don't know the language that you're writing in. Get a good editor who will edit out that for you.
I am so shocked. I did not
Make
know
you
this.
make your subpar wrong grammar something into something readable. So you have written that kind of book and you expect people to applaud you.
Wow.
Okay, you got somebody pointed out that your grammar is not right. You come and attack that person because
He
that
pointed
person
it out.
is asking for standard literature.
Oh my god. People are insane.
So these kind of things keep happening even today. So I've like learned to ignore them. Nothing big.
We were talking about the lockdown. How has it been handled? I know for you it might not be so much of change as having in your house when you're working, but has there been any other changes while you're working during lockdown?
No, I'm usually very disciplined since I've been working from home since 2013. Actually, before that, working from home since 2012. So I have adopted a routine, a discipline. I have that flexibility of working whatever hours I want to work, but I make sure when I sit down, I work for the 8 hours that I need to. And yeah, it's not 9 to 6, but it's like 12 to 8 or 2 to 10. But I make sure I work 8 hours a day. And other than that, the only difference it has made is that there's a little bit more pressure in terms of the amount of work that needs to be get done within that 24 hours and the constant um, presence of another person in the house.
Okay, I am laughing because during this lockdown, a lot of my family members called me and said, "Wouldn't it have been better if there was somebody with you?" I was like, "No, do you want me to commit murder?" Especially, I live
I
in a
had
1 hour
to
in Bombay. So I was like, "No, are you mad? I am going crazy with myself. Can you imagine another person in this house?"
yeah. And like, no matter, even if it's your soulmate, living 24/7 constantly, like, there is no personal space, even in a 2 BHK. I have a 2 BHK, but it's very spacious with two balconies and two guest rooms and large drawing room. There's no personal space. And for me, I work since I've been working alone, working from home, and I live alone for a long time. Um, when I hear a noise in the kitchen, I'm like, what's going on? Or when I hear a bathroom door slamming, I'm like, oh, I forgot to lock it. So that was very disorienting at the beginning, and now it's just like Okay, this is the new normal.
Now we are going to end on a much happier note. Tell me about what you're reading right now. What is your current favorite read? Did you find a series that you love?
You opened a Pandora's box again. I recently discovered Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn trilogy, and I'm absolutely in love with the series. Okay, the biggest USP of this series is that uh, each book had at least one twist that I didn't see coming, and it doesn't happen with me. I almost like 90% guessed the silent patient. I knew what was happening. How I wasn't totally sure. It rarely happens. Rarely any book has offered me so many twists in recent times. So, and it's not that you don't. There are signs. You need to understand, learn how to pick up the signs once you get acclimated to the author's writing style. There are signs, but amazing. Plus, the world building is amazing. Plus, the characters, some of them are annoying, but yeah, most of them are lovable. So it has everything. Good, the characters you want to, hug, and characters you want to, shake and say, "What the hell are you thinking?" Then there's this the type of magic, new kind of magic that I've never read about before. So that is also another plus. Plus, the world building is amazing, a whole new world to explore. And then I realized when I looked into Brandon Sanderson, I realized that he has a whole universe called Cosmere. So each series is written in different planets, based in different planets. So Mistborn is one. Then I started Stormlight Archives now. So that is another. So yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to go on? I can.
But yeah,
I'm just wondering about the time.
we have overshot it
Also,
by
I've just started this one.
The House at Baker Street. Wow, nice.
The House at the Baker Street. Behind every great detective stands a great woman. So this is basically about Mrs. Hudson and what's her name? Sorry. Um, okay, so this one doesn't have it. Mary Watson, sorry. Mary Watson, and apparently this one has Irene Adler also. I've just started
Didn't this
2
book get
pages.
into a lot of legal trouble?
No, because you'll notice that Sherlock Holmes and Hercule Poirot, they have new series coming out. It's something to do with the copyright.
No. So I know that I think your books go into the public domain after either 60 or 100 years. I'm not very sure about the time frame. But yeah, Arthur Conan Doyle ka administration apparently had put a legal case on that book, the book you just showed me, because they wanted women to
But
be.
the part 2 has come out. Part 2 has come out. Maybe they have not. It has to do
Maybe they
with
want because
royalties
of
or
the legal thing,
something.
like you
Maybe.
said. Like right now, the books are in public domain. Like Arthur Conan Doyle should be in public domain by now.
Yeah, it is because this is not the only series. This is not the only series. There are Ted Riccardi books, and there are quite a few Sherlock Holmes books out right now.
So I was reading an article which said that ridiculous reasons books have been sued. So this book was also there.
You don't get. We should do one episode separately about banning #ban this book.
Yes. So
People
many.
have totally lost it. But yes, I read the second book in the series before. It was a review copy. I actually enjoyed it, so I just bought the first book finally, and I'm reading The House at the Baker Street by Michelle Bergby right now. I'm also reading Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. and I'm listening to What Would I Do by Kelly Holmes. It's a book. It's an audiobook on mental health. She talks with about 10 famous people about their mental health.
Nice. I can see your bookshelf behind you. Did all of them move from Bangalore or were they also from Calcutta?
No, only from Bangalore. Calcutta books are safe in Calcutta. No use bringing them now.
On that note, thank you so much for joining me on Chai and Chill. I think we overshot the time. This is the longest episode I've shot, but I'm so happy. And I am sure if I ask you more questions, we'll open Pandora's box. So, but thank you so much for your
Yeah, no,
time.
but let's do one episode about tolerance on when it comes to art.
We should do it. Let's do it.